Are you looking for a space where you will learn to improve your mental strength, emotional health, and heal your insecurities from the inside out? Take the first step to living a more meaningful life with the Better Me with Body by Bree podcast. I'm your host, Bree. I'm a certified personal trainer, entrepreneur, and mother of 3. I've helped empower thousands of women to take action through fitness, nutrition, meditation, personal development, and aligning thoughts with action. This podcast is for those who are ready to feel inspired and motivated to live a more purposeful life. Let's grow together. Today, we're talking all about orgasms and why they are so beneficial and why it's so important to embrace your feminine sexuality. We cover topics like why it can be harder for a woman to have an orgasm than a man, releasing shame around connecting to yourself sexually, how to connect with your partner and have more open communication about what your needs are sexually, health benefits that you would never think of while having regular orgasms, the stages of an orgasm, and a lot of entertaining personal stories throughout the episode. Obviously, this episode is for mature audiences, so make sure you have your headphones if you are around your kids. We do not have a filter and we cover all the bases. I hope you're ready for this one. Let's get started. Nicolette and Jules have a podcast called Fleurish and have also been featured in Oxygen magazine. They have a podcast episode every Monday, and what they discuss is they have honest conversations where no topic is off limits and all ideas are on the table. Curated to uplift, inspire, encourage, and make you laugh and kick your week off right. They promise to help you flourish. Jules, Nicolette, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited.
Hi.
This is so fun. We're going to have girl chat today. I cannot wait. I picked the perfect. Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say I picked the perfect guest because I feel like this is just going to be such a fun girl chat that you're so open and honest. And like, I love that your slogan is like, no topics are off limits. I love that. That's the kind of friends I need in my life, right?
Hey, we are here for it. We're ready. We love a good girl talk.
We really are. And this is the best topic to girl talk about.
I know. I swear it always like leads to this when I'm with my friends. Like I'm always like, okay, guys, let's chat. Like let's get real here. And I'm always the one to bring it up. And then once I just start asking, they're like, okay, well, we'll just talk about it then. Cause I feel like you just kind of need that friend that has no filter that can like be real. And then it gives permission for other women to be real as well and kind of break down that wall and that barrier. So that's what we're all here to do.
Yes. Because I do feel like it can be seen as like kind of taboo, like a taboo topic, or that people aren't necessarily always honest about it, or they're nervous to be honest about what's really going on. And so
for sure,
we're here. We're ready to chat.
I even think that it can be hard to talk to your friends about it because you almost feel more vulnerable with someone who knows you really well, and you're nervous that you're not the same as them.
Oh yeah, it's easy.
That's true.
I don't know. I feel like, yeah,
that's definitely true. I feel like sometimes if someone is like, I have one friend that like is so lucky and she can have an orgasm while having sex. And I'm always like, you are so lucky. Do you know how rare that is?
Yeah.
Honestly.
And then other friends that, it's really hard for them to even have an orgasm at all. And you never want like them to feel bad or compare themselves, So it's like, if everything's out in the open, I think it gives permission for everyone's experience and everyone's story.
Totally. Well, and it's like, I also just don't think people know that it is normal to not have an orgasm during sex.
Just by penetration.
Yeah. Like there are other ways, and that if you aren't someone who can have one by penetration, that's normal.
Totally fine.
Totally fine.
And I didn't know that when I got married. You think it's
Isn't
like
that
movies.
So sad.
Yes.
That like we don't know our own bodies as a female.
Oh,
we don't even know.
It's like literally we've all seen every movie when there's any sex scene and you're like, oh, look at that.
The moment.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what it's going to be like. And they both go together always. And there's no cleanup. There's no cleanup.
Never.
They just cuddle.
No running to the bathroom to pee so you don't get an infection.
And then
holding it with cupping it with your hand.
So sick.
And then the sheet is like beautifully draped across you, like wrapped around your body in the most like effortless way.
Yes, you're not like sick and sweaty with like your retainer in.
Oh, and then you're like going to the bathroom and you just like are queefing all the air. That is so sexy that they're just hearing. You're like, thanks, babe.
Literally. Or like you can't relax enough and it won't all come out of you.
Oh yeah.
And then it comes out at the gym when you're at the gym the next day.
Yeah, literally. You go to the gym and you're like,
oh my gosh, why? Why does that happen? It's like 24 hours later, it's like dripping down your leg. And you're like, why am I still leaking? Where is it coming from?
It's literally just hot and soggy.
Yeah. Then you have to face the wall for every exercise.
Guys, I already love you so much. This is so good. This is so good because it's so true. Like, here's what I think is interesting though. Okay, I do feel like for our listeners, we have to kind of give a background. I don't actually know if you guys are Mormon, but I'm Mormon. And so I was pretty naive when I got married. Like,
totally. That's how we are.
I didn't know anything. Okay. But like, I had never had sex before marriage. Okay.
Mm-hmm. we do
kind
nothing.
of in the same boat. So it's kind of our culture, right? Like it's a little bit of our culture where like I never had sex before marriage. I had never really seen pornography. Like I really did not I was very naive like going into it. I'm like, okay. And it's kind of hard to switch your mentality to all of a sudden be this like sex kitten for your husband when for so long you're like, okay, be pure and clean. And then you're like, wait, now, be okay with all of this. It kind of is a little bit hard, right? Like, and I think especially in our culture, it's not talked about a lot.
No. And it's even suggested in our like religious culture to not experiment with touching yourself alone, like before getting married even. So you don't even know what your vagina is capable of doing. So how are you supposed or what you like?
Yeah.
So how are you supposed to then enjoy sex ever? Like it's really hard.
It makes for a pretty steep learning curve.
Yes.
Like right when you get married, if you have like not slept with someone before you get married. I mean, I can, from my own experience, I mean, it took some absolute learning on my end. Like it was tricky. Like we had a hard time like figuring it all out for a while because I had like, you just didn't know. And then you get married and all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, this should be easy. And I'm sure I'll just figure it out nice and quick.
Well, and a boy orgasms in about 5 seconds. So you're like, well, why is that not happening for me?
Yes. I think that's where like I struggled too is where people, I think a lot of women can like maybe feel maybe shameful or like more embarrassed is like, okay, yeah, a guy can finish in like very quickly, but why is it taking me more time? Or like, is something wrong? Is something off? Like, am I doing it wrong?
Am I broken?
Yeah. And that's like such a scary thought, especially when you're going through such a big change just in life. To also be trying to figure that out at the same time is a lot.
It is a lot. And I remember being like, well, first you have to, the hard part is if you are in a culture background where we come from, it's like, you don't even know what you like. You're like, I don't even know what to tell him to do. I don't know.
No.
I'm not sure what feels good to me. I'm not sure. Like, I remember the first time I like used a vibrator, I felt like, is this okay? Like, I kind of felt dirty. Like guilty for a minute. Like, I'm like, I don't like, am I allowed to do this? Like, it was just like a funny complex. But as I've matured and gotten older, I'm like, my daughter will never feel that shame. Like I am going to be open with her. I'm going to tell her she can experiment. Like I know that might be like a little in our church. It's just, but I'm like, no, I don't believe in that shame around your sexuality. I want you to feel comfortable with your body. I want you to know what you like. I want you to like connect with that side of you because it is so powerful and so important. And now I feel like I'm so much more sexual and I have such a like fulfilling relationship with my husband that I want every girl to feel that way. So I'm like, no, let's open this conversation. Let's break down these barriers. Let's talk about how important this is and why this needs to happen and why we have to have these conversations. And it's not this taboo thing, and it's not like this shame-centered thing that we should feel and that we can't connect with. Like, it's a very beautiful, powerful, positive, feminine energy that I think we all need to tap into. So that's kind of my goal of the podcast. I feel.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
We love that.
And I feel like, you know, obviously we're joking about it and we're open and we can laugh about it. But even when you just hear other people's experiences, you're like, okay, it's normal. You know, it's totally normal. And I remember, you guys I'm interested how your guys' wedding nights went, but I remember I cried. The first time I was like, this is amazing, you know, and I'm like, holy cow, this is great. And I was like in fantasy land. But actually having sex was hard because it hurt, because I don't know if I was too tight or it just wouldn't fit. Like it just wasn't the movies, you know what I mean? And I remember crying like, this should be easy for me. Like I should just know what to do. And I didn't. And that was kind of a little bit like I felt bad. I mean, Adam was in heaven. He could care less. He's just,
sure.
He's excited. But like, I wanted to be really good at that. And where I was like, wait, this hurts. I'm not really sure how to do this rhythm. Like I didn't, like, I feel like if you let people know, that's totally normal at the beginning, and it's a learning curve, you know? So I'm interested how your guys' wedding nights went.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Tragic.
Yeah. No. For me, not much happened. We gave it a go. It was like I was like a brick wall, you know?
Stop it.
Yeah. It was like, no, nothing's getting through that gate. Gates closed. And we, luckily, you know, my husband is so great, and we just like kind of laughed it off and then like did other stuff, and it was great. But actual like sex did not happen night one. And that was almost a bit like, it was fine. I remember thinking about it and being like, okay, he and I have all this chemistry. Like when we're kissing and we're making out and like all that, like we have so much chemistry. I never thought that it would be something I'd have to figure out. Like I did not go into it thinking it would be something that like wouldn't happen right away. Like I just figured, okay, well, when the time comes, great. It'll slip on in and it's going to be a breeze.
And the big O will happen.
Every time. No matter what. Instant. And it was not the case for me. It was really not. But, you know, great wedding night, but not the way we planned, you know? Well, we ended it with watching The Office. So
I wonder too, because with girls, it's so emotional. Like where if you're in your head at all, or if you're nervous, or if you can't relax, or if like you're distracted. Like for me, I'm always like, I have to be like in the zone. I always tell my husband, like, I'm not in the zone. Like I gotta I gotta be in the zone. So, you know, that impacts it too. And it takes a while to kind of like warm up and get your body ready. And, you know, but you don't really know that at the beginning. So you're just like, hey, let's see if this fits. But you're like, oh, wait, there's a lot that needs to happen there. But now, you know, now we know. But What about you? I don't know. Was that Jules or Nicolette? I can't ever tell you guys.
That was Jules.
That was Jules.
Okay, that was Jules. So Nicolette, what about you?
So for me, I know there's some girls listening right now that will fall into this group. I was deep into the pretend I had an orgasm like moment with at the beginning of my marriage, where it was like, I'm just going to fake it. Like I think it's supposed to be happening. Maybe it is. I don't know. Like, but I'm just going to make sure I pretend like it is and act like it's feeling really great, even though I'm writhing inside. Cause it's like, hurting a little bit, and
Yeah.
nothing great is actually happening. Like there was no like big moment. So I pretended for a little while that I was enjoying and having orgasms. And I definitely pretended on our wedding night that I had an orgasm. And it lasted. It was very short.
He's like, sweet, I'm the best. Like, I am
Honestly.
so good.
Yeah, here's just making him feel great. She's like,
really boosting the ego over there.
So what changed? Like what shifted where you're like, okay, I don't want to pretend anymore? Or maybe you still do. I don't know.
No. Oh, hell no. I'm like, I get mine before you get yours.
Honestly,
yes, that's exactly me too. But I'm like, I listen to your podcast, so I know that's not true. So like what shifted?
Yes.
What changed?
Well, okay. I had actually masturbated from the time I was really young. And I used to be very embarrassed about it until I started talking openly about it with my clients because I do hair. So I talk to girls all day. And the second I started talking about it, so many other women were like, oh my gosh, I have never told anyone, but I also was masturbating in second grade. Like,
well, it's this shame for girls for some reason. Like it's expected for guys. It's like, yeah, of course you're going to. And then girls, it's like so taboo.
Yes. It's like it's naughty for a girl to do it, but not a guy.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. So I had known what an orgasm felt like from the time I was young. And it like finally clicked one day that when I was married that like, oh, okay, that same feeling is what I should be feeling while I'm having sex, or I should be able to get that feeling. How come I'm not? And maybe if I can learn or teach Colby how to do it for me during sex, maybe I'll actually not resent sex so much.
Yes.
And so it was opening the conversation with Colby and just getting brave to kind of show him even how to do it, or let him watch me use a vibrator so that he could just like feel comfortable with it, or learn what to do with the vibrator on me while we're having sex. So
yes,
I just was fed up with like not enjoying it, and I knew it was having a negative effect on our marriage the longer that I was just pretending to enjoy sex.
So I have so many questions. So did you, because I feel like men, they want to please. Like a guy would love that. If you're like, hey, let me show you. Like, let me show you what feels good. And why don't you try this? They're so grateful. They're like, yes, I want to please you. I want this to feel good for you too. Like they want to connect. They don't want it to be one-sided.
Yeah, definitely. So, I feel like
oh, sorry, you go.
I feel like, and that like I feel like men get turned on when their partner is turned on.
It.
Like so that for them, like if you're not into it or like enjoying it, I feel like it is harder for your spouse to as well. Like I know, like when I'm into it or whatever, and he's like making me like he's pleasing me, he's amped. Like he is all over it. And so you're totally right. Men do want to please. I don't feel like men are, generally speaking, like just in it for just them or like a selfish reason. You know what I mean? I do feel like it is mutually, and they want it to be mutually beneficial.
Yes. Adam will be sad. Like he's like, no, like he's like, we're not going to have sex. Like if you don't get off, we're not having sex. Like
totally.
He's like, it's not, this isn't one way. And so it's like, you know, that they like it too. But what would be your advice then for a girl? Like I have a friend who's like, I'm not sure if I've ever orgasmed. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, what? I like literally Amazon her a vibrator.
Yes.
I'm like, this will show up in 2 days. When it does, call me. I'm going to give you some tips. Like, so what, because some girls are just scared to open that part of them. So they don't even know what to tell their husband. So what advice do you have for that girl?
I mean, I think first of all, no matter what, if someone has never, if they're unsure if they've had an orgasm or not, they need to buy a vibrator
immediately
Yes.
And I'm going to send you 2 links of our favorite vibrators that you can put in the
I'll link
podcast
'em.
notes.
Yep. I'll link them. I'll put mine too in there if you want.
Yes. We swap our favorite vibrator ideas.
We do.
It's great.
Good.
Friends
I love that. I want to know. Send it to me. Text it to me after.
Yes. But I always just suggest a girl to like get a vibrator, go in your room by yourself or your bathroom or the tub, like whatever you feel comfy, sexy, whatever, and use a vibrator on yourself first before introducing it into the bedroom, especially if you've never had one before. Because like learning where your clitoris is, like some girls just don't even know their anatomy.
Right.
And where the spot is that feels good to have a vibration or to have pressure. So I always just suggest playing alone by yourself first.
Yes. And give yourself permission to do that and not feel bad about it. Like it's for your marriage. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Because I think that if you introduce it with like a partner first initially, I think if you're already kind of a little uncomfy with a vibrator, like you've never used one, you don't know what it's going to feel like, and then your partner also maybe doesn't know how to use it and you don't know what it's going to feel like on you. I just don't feel like we were saying, being like in the zone or like being in your head. I just think there's going to be so many thoughts going on. Like, okay, is this the response?
To relax.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, is this how I'm supposed to be feeling? Okay, like, okay, yeah, that feels good, but like, is that where it's, or maybe it kind of hurts there, but you're too nervous to say. Like, so I do think if it's introduced one-on-one first, you'll have a more successful experience when you then go to be with a partner after.
Totally.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I do you know what's interesting? My 2 friends that's crazy that I only have 2 friends that I know of that can orgasm during sex. They both cannot use a vibrator because they said it's too sensitive. Yeah. They're like, it's too much. Like it makes me like crawl in my skin. So I'm like, that's interesting. So I wonder if it's a certain anatomy thing.
Yeah,
totally.
You know? So they hate vibrators, but I'm like, well, why would you need a vibrator if you can get off during sex? That's great.
Sure.
Yeah, you're a unicorn. You're lucky.
Right. Yeah. Which by the way, the stats on that, I think is like less than 20% of women actually go during sex without like, clit stimulation. So like that's totally normal. But like it goes to show like everyone's so different. Like one girl might like a high vibrator, one might like a low one might like stop, like you have to know what you like and it might be different than everyone else, and that's okay.
And there are so many different types of like stimulators, like vibrators. Like there's ones that suck, like a little sucking motion on your clitoris. There's ones that just vibrate. There's one that vibrates in the inside of you. Like there are, so it's so fun to be able to give yourself permission to buy all of them, try them all out, see which one works best for you. If you don't get off on the one that your best friend likes and you feel like, oh no, like, can I just not do it? Buy a different one that does a different thing.
Exactly.
There's so many options.
And I think I think if you like talk to your husband openly about it, I think having an open dialogue helps you also to just feel more comfortable. Like, hey, I really want to enjoy sex. I really want this to be a fun connecting thing for us. Like, I need to figure out what I like first. And like, not that you need their permission, but I think it is good to just have an open dialogue, so that you're on the same page. And then you can be like, and then I can show you what I actually like, or I can figure this out. And I guarantee they'll probably be on board,
Totally.
And some men don't know that it is this hard for women to orgasm. And so letting them know also that, like educating them that like this is a lot harder for a girl. It's a mindset thing. It's a body thing. It's like a stimulation thing. Everything's got to be aligned. And so I do want, like, just saying like, I want a little help, and the vibrator really gets me going. And so let's make this fun for both of us. You can be involved. You can hold it, or you can watch me. I think you can just speaking about it with your spouse and not coming into the conversation already being super timid about it, I think is a big makes a big difference in how they're going to respond. If you're just like super confident in it and make it seem very like playful, and this is going to make our sex way better.
Mm-hmm.
How can a guy say no to that?
Did you know?
Yes.
So it was actually for me, my husband was the one who suggested.
Stop it.
Yeah. Get it. Because like I said, when I was similar to you, like I would cry, like we would have sex and it would be painful and I would cry, which doesn't, so I'm like trying to get through it. And then he is having a hard time because he's seeing that I'm uncomfortable and that I'm hurting.
Yeah,
and
he's like, well, how do I get off looking at you like sad?
Right. And then I would like try and hold it together. And then I'd be like, okay, like I'm going to go rinse off in the shower. And I would sob in the shower. Like how sad. Right? And so he was like so sweet one day and like approached me about it. And again, the culture that we were brought up in, I kind of saw vibrators as more of a taboo thing in a sex life. Like I felt like it seemed kind of like naughty, you know? And he was like, I really think that this is what's going to help you. He's like, I want you to enjoy it. Like we need to try and figure it out. He's like, because it's not working clearly the way that it's going. And so he almost had to kind of convince me to try it because I wasn't super open to it originally. And then after trying it and realizing what a difference it can make, I was blown away. And like we would use it like more in the beginning, like when he was like going inside, you know, and it was like more painful at first. And it kind of acted as a distraction from that. And instead of like feeling painful, then it was obviously feeling a lot better. And then gradually over time, you know, it just and learned what worked for us. And now I'm like such a proponent of that because I think that it can absolutely change your intimacy and your sex life and in like help with your relationship so much. And so I think that you're so right. A dialogue between the two of you can be so helpful of just like trying and learning and figuring it out. And if you do need to figure it out together, like if you're uncomfortable, I think it's okay to try and figure it out together too.
For sure. Well, and like, did you notice too, like when you go first or like you're stimulated first, that sex feels so much better because you're open, you're lubricated, you're ready, you know? So like a tip, if you're struggling, you go first and then sex feels so much better.
I cannot tell you how many people I have told that they need to be the one to go first. And I think that everyone just kind of hopes they'll go together and then it doesn't happen. But then like once they're done, then the mood is a little different because they're not quite as into it because they're in their like refractory period.
Well, they're going to get soft in about 2 seconds. Right. So hurry, good luck getting off now.
And so then if they're like I just feel like your mood changes because then you see they're not quite as into it because they're like tired now. And so it's such a game changer if you go first. You've got to go first.
Yes. Or like at least
going.
Oh, what?
Well, and that gets the guy going too.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. So let's talk about the title of this is the health benefits of orgasm. So what are some of the health benefits of orgasms that you guys have experienced or that I know that so let me just rephrase this. You guys have a orgasm podcast. That's actually how I found you. And their podcast is called Fleurish, which I mentioned before. But listening to that podcast, I was like, this is really great information. And I feel like my listeners would love it. So what are some of the health benefits of orgasms?
So before we get into it, Nicola and I always like to just make sure everyone knows that we are not doctors.
No.
This is just girl talk. This is just girl talk.
We're not doctors. We're not scientists, but we get all of our information from science-backed research and physicians who have studied this. So we love Elisa Vitti. She is so powerful with like women's health knowledge in general, which is a lot of what our podcast talks about is just women's health in regards to your sexuality and your like cycle, your menstruation cycle, all the things. And so a lot of this information comes from her research. So just as a little background from where it's all coming from.
Well, and I love that too, because people want to know, but they don't want to do their own research half the time. Like, we're all busy moms. It's like, I just want to like listen to it. You tell me what you read, you know?
Yeah.
So that's great.
Exactly. So the first benefit is that it improves your circulations to your organs in your pelvic region, and it can help regulate your menstrual cycle. So a woman who orgasms once a week is more likely to have a regular menstrual cycle.
How cool is that?
That's amazing.
Also, how many times have you had an orgasm and like moments later start your period when you know like you're about to start? I feel like it like really gets things going and keeps you on track.
Totally.
During the, like when you know you're like about to start. I've had friends text me and be like, I'm like 3 days late on my period and I'm stressing out that I'm pregnant. And I'm always like, just go have an orgasm.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it always just starts.
That's so fascinating. Our bodies are so cool.
I know.
They really are.
Another benefit is that it actually increases your fertility, which is never talked about.
Wild.
Ever.
Wild.
So it like energizes the hypothalamus gland, which is the gland that like helps with the reproduction hormones in your body. So induces ovulation and all of your cervical fluids. So that's kind of a fun.
Which I bet if it's doing that, it makes you glow because that's awakening that side of you.
Totally.
Yes. So it acts as an overall lymphatic massage as well, which helps your body's which helps your body's natural like detox process to increase your digestion, your mood, and if this isn't like the best part, it helps to prevent cervical cancer.
Wow.
So there is that.
I did not know any of these benefits. I love this.
Isn't that crazy? Because I mean, we do things, we like everyone's loving to do like gua sha, like lymphatic drainage massages. And it's like, okay, as part of your regimen,
slip in an orgasm.
Right.
Toss one in.
Love it. Toss one in.
Toss one in.
You heard it here.
Okay, so orgasms also promote healthy estrogen levels in your body. We all know that we need our hormones regulated and great. And estrogen helps with REM sleep, getting into that great REM deep sleep. And orgasms in general produce prolactin, which gives you that like cozy, relaxed, sleepy, comfy feeling. So great thing to add into your nighttime routine. Absolutely. If you need to sleep better, if you're struggling with your sleep.
So along those same lines, it helps with relaxation by boosting your endorphins, which we know, and flushing our cortisol hormones, which we just don't love cortisol, you know?
No.
It's not our favorite hormone because it's our inflammatory hormones that causes stress. And so it helps you to release and relieve your stress, which we all need every day.
Right.
At least once.
Orgasms spike your DHEA hormone, which improves your brain function. It boosts your immune system. And like Bree was just saying, gives you that healthy, glowy skin. So it promotes healthy skin, just orgasms do in general.
Yeah, they can literally make you look younger. So more
wild,
like, which is crazy. But if you think about it, it's like more blood flow increases, which means more oxygen leads to your face, and more oxygen means more collagen, which means better skin.
You're like, honey, I'm doing this for my skin, okay?
Yes.
Skincare routine.
It's part of my skin routine.
We all love skin routines.
You're gonna be like, hey, you know, I have acne. I really need to have sex really quick. They're like, yeah, babe, whatever you need.
My doctor told me.
Love it.
But it makes you wonder though, when you see women that are older that look supple and beautiful and glowy, you kind of want to go up to them and be like, hey, so have you orgasmed a lot in your life?
It like keeps them youthful, you know?
Yes.
A little pep in their step, you know?
Yeah. I love that.
Orgasms boost infection fighting cells up to 20%. So it like can fight colds and flus. And we need that, especially going into freaking winter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you know, sometimes I think about that, like after we're like done and I'm laying there and I'm like, I wonder if that was just like taking like vitamin C.
Like a vitamin C pack. I just took what is it? Emergency. I just took an emergency right there.
Honestly, I lay there and I think that, and then I tell myself that's so nerdy to even like be thinking about that after, but it's fine. Orgasms can actually help cure migraines, and they help with elevating your pain threshold, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so many people suffer from migraines. Cool. So that's a pretty good tip.
Okay. In one of the books I read while I was pregnant in preparing for pregnancy or for labor, and maybe you've heard this, Bree, but having orgasms regularly during your pregnancy actually helps you have a more pain-free labor. Have you heard this?
Interesting. No, I knew it put you into labor.
Yes. But it helps with your pain threshold. Like there's actual studies that help that have been done that show that, I don't know if it's something to do with like the muscles that contract during the orgasm, then are stimulated so often during your pregnancy that pushing the baby out becomes easier and less painful, and those muscles don't have to stretch so much or contract so much because they're used to it already. I know, kind of fascinating.
Okay, wait, I do have to ask one thing while we're talking about pregnancy and sex. After you orgasm, did you not have the craziest contractions? Like your whole stomach just tighten like a baseball? I'm like,
it's scary because you're like, did I do it? Is it happening? Is the baby going to come out?
I know. And especially like when you're kind of smaller, my stomach would contract so tight that my baby was like a little baseball. Like I could literally see exactly where my uterus was. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so freaky.
It's psycho. Bodies are so psycho.
I know. Okay, sorry. Keep going. I just had me and my sister-in-law were laughing about that because she's like, "Is that normal?" I'm like, "Yeah,
very normal." The last one is that it increases your levels of oxytocin, so the hormone of bonding and success. Those like really happy, passionate, that hormone that we all love in our body that gives us all the feel goods, makes us want to be passionate and have a better, happier day, you know, in general. It gives us all and obviously because it's releasing those feelings and specifically giving you that like passionate feeling, it's only going to do wonders for you and your partner.
Right. Making you feel closer. Yeah. My mom actually, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying, it gives you a little boost of self-esteem, self-confidence, which we all need.
Yes, for sure. My mom, I grew up in like, she's very open. Like, so we would talk about things, right? We joke about sex. Like she's very, very open. But anyway, she's also a therapist. And she was saying like, when you have an orgasm and you're connected to that sexual side of you, that you're way more creative. So when she works on people, she'll be like, oh, your like sexual chakra is completely closed. And so she's like, I actually help them have like a healthy sexual chakra so that they're more creative and they're more successful and they're more like abundant. And it has like all of this really cool healing energy when you have a healthy sexual chakra. But she also says it can go the other way too. And it can almost be too big where it takes over. So she's like, I help to like balance that, which I thought was fascinating. She'd always be like, whenever she'd work on me as a teenager, she'd be like, okay, this is huge. I'm like, shut up, Mom. I'm a teenager, you know.
You're like, leave me alone.
Oh, I know. But she'd be like, let's reel this in a little, make it, you know, like it was just funny. Or like, you know, just sometimes if it takes over, it can, you know, so it's good to have like a balance. But I thought that was so cool how it makes you more creative.
That is way cool.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it that way. I love that.
Yeah, super fascinating. Okay, so one thing I thought was really fascinating on your podcast was how you went through the stages of an orgasm. So can we go through those stages and teach our listeners?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to mention, I'm going to send you a link to also add in your podcast notes, but there is a good article that we found that kind of walks someone through how to even have an orgasm.
Love it.
Instructions, if you will, for
That's
someone
awesome.
that really needs to like have it broken down. So I'm going to also provide that for you guys.
And it's not like scary.
No.
It's not like
it's very like medical.
Vulgar. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. I love it.
So the first stage, there's 4 stages to an orgasm. And the first stage is the arousal excitement stage. And it can last a few minutes to a few hours. And this is where all the blood and fluids flow to the sex organs. So like, we call this the high school phase. In high school,
it's really fun.
When you just rub on top of each other, you just dry each other.
Oh yeah, you can get off in 2 seconds.
You totally can. And you enjoy all those, the 45 minutes of jean zippers going into your vagina. Like, so horrible. But you know those, how frisky and like turned on you are in high school when your hormones are like the best they've ever been. So that's the arousal.
I wish we could bottle that up.
I know.
Same.
It's like the feeling that you get when you're 13 and you watch The Notebook. And you're just like, what?
You're in it.
You're in.
Yes. So that's the arousal excitement phase.
Yeah. The next stage is the plateau stage, which is kind of just a continuation of the arousal phase. And so like your breathing and your heart rate and your blood pressure all rise, just preparing you for the moment.
And then the third is the actual orgasm. So this is when all the vaginal lubrication increases, your muscles constrict. It's the overall pleasure climax moment. And there'll be very quick contractions in your pelvic floor muscles. And I feel like that's a good way to help people know when people are like, am I having an orgasm? Well, a good way to know is, are you getting those like little flutters, those like contractions?
Yeah. I always think of them as like butterfly wings.
Yeah.
Like the bat.
That is the orgasm.
Yes. And then the last phase is just your resolution phase, when everything in your body relaxes, your muscles relax, your mind relaxes, and you release yourself from your aroused state. So those are your stages of an orgasm.
That is so fascinating to learn.
I want to add that we have a podcast episode that is all about the seasons of your cycle. There's 4 seasons to a cycle, and each phase of your cycle, that your hormones are doing something completely different in each phase. And it's actually harder and easier in certain phases of your cycle to have an orgasm. And like some of the days during your cycle, it's like nearly impossible to orgasm. And then there's some days where it's like you are peaking. It's going to be the easiest it's ever going to be. And so just learning what days those are can be so freeing for you as a female, just to like give yourself a little bit of grace if like your husband's wanting, or your partner's wanting to have sex and you are like, cannot get off for the life of you. If you look at your cycle and you're like, oh, well, no, duh. Like today was a bad day to have sex because like I'm not going to be able to. I'm depleted. Yeah. But like, give me a week and a half and like, let's have sex 3 times a day and I'll be ready to go. So
that's fascinating. That is so fascinating, because I tell Adam all the time, like sometimes the second you get started, you're like, oh, yep, this is great. And then sometimes you're like, okay, here, let me, all right, can I get there? Let's see.
Like sometimes I am like racking my brain to like envision trying to get like turned on as much as I can. And I literally cannot get there. Like it is so impossible. And I, without fail, every time I look at my little Flow app that shows me where I'm at on my cycle, and I'm like, well, no shit. Like,
that's why.
Yep. So if you guys are interested
what's the app?
No.
It's called
The Flow app was just where I like track my period, but
okay.
It doesn't tell you about your seasons of your cycle.
Oh, so you have to listen to that podcast. Do you know what episode it is?
It is called The Seasons of Your Cycle.
It's in our season 1. Okay. We'll share with you what, and you can add it to the notes.
Yeah, we can link it. Yeah, we'll link it to the show notes for you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is episode 22 in season 1, and it is called Understand the Seasons of Your Cycle. Utilizing your hormones to live your best life.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to link it. And as we're starting to wrap up, I just wanted to, so Nicolette just had a baby. So first of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I feel so great. She's thriving. Actual heaven. So we're very happy about that. Haven't had the baby blues or anything yet. So I'm just crossing my fingers that I'm just going to keep thriving.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yes.
I'm actually training Nicolette for postpartum. You just are just over 6 weeks, just barely, right?
Yes. And I just finished week 1 of your program.
Yay. You're feeling good?
Yes. I'm just so grateful that you have a program that understands the importance of not just overdoing it right when because a lot of women feel really great at 6 weeks postpartum. Like they're ready to go start lifting really heavy. And it's a little frightening when doctors just say, okay, like I just had my checkup last week and he was like, well, you can go as hard as you want at the gym now. Like you can go back to all your normal lifting. And yes, like could my body do that physically? It could, but there is a reason why you should be careful to not ruin your pelvic floor and your abs.
That actually infuriates me that your doctor said that.
Isn't that wild?
No. You need to rehab.
like there should be a full-blown rehabilitation process postpartum.
Yes, there should be.
Your abdomen was completely separated. And your pelvic floor is no longer really there. It's like you've got to rebuild it really slowly. And so I really appreciate all your knowledge on just postpartum care for your body. And so that's why I was so drawn to your program, was because I really don't know if I haven't been able to find another program like it that supports your body postpartum and making sure that you don't get diastasis and you don't ruin your pelvic floor muscles.
Yeah, it's so great to have so many options.
Yes, I'm loving it.
I'm very passionate about it because I'm like, that infuriates me because I'm like, we need more support for women. And like any pelvic floor specialist that you talk to, they're like, you shouldn't even be running 3 months after you have a baby. Like your entire pelvic floor was ripped apart. Like you have to rehab it. You can't just go back to normal. That's where you get the mommy pooch, So anyway, I'm super passionate about it. But I was going to ask how your sex life did after you had your baby. Like, how did that go? Like, that was my last question for someone who has a baby. What advice do you have for them to kind of get back in? Because I know it's kind of a little scary. You're like, I had stitches down there. I don't know about you, but I had a lot of stitches down there. It's swollen. Like it's hard to like feel sexual when there's so much trauma down there. So what would your advice be for after you have a baby?
Okay, so listen, I see a pelvic floor therapist as well as part of like my rehab postpartum. I
love that. I'm so proud of you for that.
Yes, I love her so much. And she was the one who suggested having orgasms. Like when you get home from the hospital, try having an orgasm as soon as you can.
Wow. I have never heard that before, but it kind of makes sense.
Just totally. And just by clitoral stimulation, no going inside just because of all the healing. But there are so many benefits. First of all, she's like, you really want to wake up your pelvic floor muscles again, because that's where people get into the whole, I mean, there's a lot of women who've not experienced an orgasm ever since having a baby, but they could prior. And it's because of those pelvic floor muscles not your brain not knowing how to reactivate them again. And so anyway, I had an orgasm like 3 days after I got home from the hospital.
Did it hurt?
I was so scared. And it felt just as great as it had before. There was no pain.
Oh, that's good.
The contracting felt normal, like that you have when you orgasm. It wasn't scary.
It's actually healing you.
Totally.
Could be as
interesting.
Well. I mean, you had a C-section.
I had a C-section.
From, could be different, like with a vaginal birth versus
for sure
C-section as well.
Yeah, but your everything in there was still
connected. Yeah.
So it definitely it all worked and it all felt fine. And I continued to I tried to at least have an orgasm like twice a week, just through using a vibrator, and it was wonderful and very fun. And then I just had sex for the first time last week, and that hurt. So we're working on that.
It does for a while, I feel.
Yep.
Especially if you're like stitched up tight. You're like, oh boy, starting all over.
Okay, and because I don't have stitches down there, but we just haven't had sex for 7 weeks,
right.
And even just that, like, I felt like I was 15,
Right. For sure. Definitely. But I feel like that's so good. I love to hear your experience, and I love that you got a pelvic floor specialist and that you're open and that you just are really working on rehabbing. I love to hear that so much. I can hear your cute little baby every once in a while just cooing. I'm like, oh, that gets me so excited. I'm just so happy for you. I really appreciate you guys being open and honest and being able to just be vulnerable, because I think it helps so many women and just gives them permission. And right before we got on, they were like, this is our first podcast interview. I'm like, what? Yes. You guys are naturals.
Oh my gosh. We're so sweaty.
So sweaty. I had to rip off my sweatshirt.
And of course, the first podcast interview we have is about orgasms. It's like already kind of a sweaty topic.
But no, we're so
grateful you are so good.
To have us. We feel really grateful.
Of course.
Yes, thank you.
I love your podcast. I love what you guys are doing. I think you're the cutest friend couple, and you're great. So if you guys haven't listened, you got to listen to their podcast. Where else can our listeners find you if they want more info on you?
So they can find us on Instagram. It's just at Fleurish Podcast. It's FLEURISH. So Fleur.
Perfect.
And then we also have a Facebook group, which is so fun. If you are looking for like a community of women to talk to, bounce ideas off of, even try to like make new friends.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
It's the best.
It's so
thing.
open.
Yeah. Everyone is so wonderful on there. It has like been nothing but a positive, wonderful space. So you can find us on Facebook as well. And it's just like a private group. We'll accept you into there and you can come and hang.
Thank you. You guys are amazing. And we are going to link everything that we talked about, our vibrators, your podcast, the article. So look for that in the show notes as well. Thank you for being on, you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Bree.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode. If you liked the content and want to hear more, remember to hit that subscribe button and write a review. As a small business owner, I appreciate it more than you know. If you are looking for a program to help with self-confidence, to lose weight, get in shape, and work on your mental, physical, and emotional health, check out my training programs on www.bodybybree.com. My team and I help to hold you accountable through the Body by Bree app, where you log in to see all your workouts, custom meal plan made specifically for you and your needs, and communication through the messenger. You are never alone when you're on the Body by Bree training program. Click the link in the show notes to get more information on how to transform your life from the inside out.